literally going to therapy over her, and she forgot his first name. I love women humbling men. Howdy my loves, it's Julie here, and we are going to do a reading wrap up of January and February. I had one of the best starts to my reading year I've ever had, with many 5-star reads in the first 2 months, which is like unprecedented for me. If you've been following my channel, you know that it has taken me several months into the year to even find one 5-star read. So to have more than one within the first 2 months of the year is just insane good luck to me. I am so happy about the books I've read. There have been some really, really good books, and I wanted to share them with you because I wasn't able to do just a reading wrap up of January. I thought we could combine them all. The first book that I'm going to talk about is so special. It is so special, and if you've read the series, you would understand why I'm saying this book is so special. The first book that I read of 2025 was Kingdom of Ash. It's all downhill from here. I'm so sorry, but this is probably going to be the best book I've read this year. The conclusion to possibly the best series I've ever read in my life. I cannot even describe the feelings I felt reading this book, and in fact, I really can't describe it. So if you want to watch me reacting to this book and the entire series, I'll link it up above. It was just such an emotional read for me. Like, if you know this series, and if you're unfamiliar with Sarah J Maas's Game, let me just describe to you what the series is about. It's about a young assassin who has been basically groomed her whole life and is working for a very corrupt man, thrown into prison. She's been given a chance to escape that life by becoming the king's guard, and she is to win a competition against other assassins, thieves, basically all these morally bankrupt people, and if she wins, she gets out of slavery. I can't even believe that that is the start of it, because this is an 8-book series, ladies and gentlemen. I know that's a lot. I'm telling you, I'm begging you, if you have not read this series, please read it. I know it's an investment. I did not want to invest. I did not want to read this series. I really was reluctant. It took me so long to buy this series and to convince my book club to read it and then to read it myself. So worth it. This book is phenomenal. The series is phenomenal. It is a 5-star series. You will love the main character. You will love the romances. You will love the plot. I'm like getting emotional talking about it. This whole series is just really about how tiny acts of kindness make a huge world of difference, and how those little acts of kindness can build up to make a better world. There's not been a day since I finished that I've not thought about this book and about Celaena Sardothien. The next book I read, I don't have a physical copy of. It's called Wedlocked by Cambria Herbert. This is a novella from a series that I was reading of hers, Westbrook Elite series. A group of swimmers, the team is called Elite. They go to this like very fancy private school where the swim team very popularized, like it's a really big part of their culture at school. It's like an interconnected standalone series. Every single book is a different character. Wedlocked was basically the novella that wrapped up the series, about one of the main couples getting married. Obviously, this book is not something that was like riveting or like anything spectacular. I think I just wanted like something goofy and fluffy after the absolute emotional roller coaster that was Kingdom of Ash. It's like a reward. This book I ended up giving 3 stars. Again, I read it on my phone. The whole series is kind of like that. It's nothing spectacular, but it's so predictable. I find it comforting in its predictability. The next book I read was My Blind Date with a Book. I actually have a reading vlog of this as well. I'll link it up above. This is called Tweet Cute by Emma Lord, and this I got as a Christmas gift, and it was so interesting to get a blind date with a book because I'm gonna tell you right now, probably seeing this on the shelf, I don't think I would have picked this up for myself. It's a YA romance, and I was so pleasantly surprised by how I felt about this book. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was so stinking cute. If you are a foodie or someone who appreciates like social media, content creation, or just someone who wants like a cute bantery romance, you would love this book. It's about Pepper and Jack. I wonder if the romance author like saw Pepper Jack cheese in her fridge and was like, you know what would be hilarious? Pepper and Jack are running social media accounts for their parents' restaurants. However, Pepper's mom runs a huge huge chain of fast food places. Jack runs a very small deli food account for his parents. They're struggling. Jack gets upset because he realizes that this huge, massive corporation stole his family's grilled cheese recipe. He posts to social media and it gains a lot more traction than he thought. And it gets the attention of Pepper's mom. So Pepper, who's running the Twitter account, is trying to deal with this fire. And Pepper and Jack end up realizing that it's each other who's running the food account. And they go at each other. Is it no holds bar? No bars held? No. Someone correct me on that. But little do they know that they have actually been texting flirtily online through this anonymous app. They have no idea it's each other, and I don't know about you guys, but I eat up that trope so much. I love the anonymous texting, letter writing, anything that's like anonymous. I just love that trope so much. This was like a great addition to that. I really like this book. There was so much appreciation for cooking, for content creation. It was just so niche and it was so fun. The banter was really good. It was really hilarious. Such a good time. I ended up rating it 4 stars. Then I put my heart through the ringer again because I read Onyx Storm. Can you believe that I read Kingdom of Ash and Onyx Storm within like 2 weeks of each other? How did I get through that? 5 stars. Obviously. This is one of my favorite series. The other 2 books were so plot heavy, and this one has a lot of advancement of plot, but I felt like this was so romantic. Like, it just absolutely made my heart so happy. Xaden in this book, unbelievable. He's so in love with Violet, and not only is he in love with her, he shows it. I didn't even need to be in his point of view to understand how much he loves this woman. He showed her, he told her, he was not playing around with his girl, and I absolutely ate this book up. I thought it was so good. It was so entertaining. I did a whole reading reaction to this. I'll link it up above so you guys can watch it. I was just obsessed with it. I could not believe how in love I was with this book. Every book I'm just like, oh, she can't top this. Wrong. I can absolutely love them more. If you haven't read Fourth Wing, just to give you a little summary on the plot of the series, basically it's about dragon riders. Violet Sorrengail is the daughter of a general, and she wanted to become a scribe, so basically record history, but her mother forces her to become a dragon rider instead. And to become a dragon rider, it's very dangerous. There's no leaving the school, there's no expulsion, there is only death. If you make it to threshing, you get chosen by a dragon, and with that comes developing a signet, which is basically a power that is manifested through your dragon. Violet ends up meeting the enemy of her family, who is Xaden Ryerson. She is told to stay away from him. Does she do that? Absolutely not. And it's amazing that she doesn't, because he is the most amazing book boyfriend in the world. I think he might be number 1. Him and Reese are, like, for me, right at the top. Please give this series a read if you haven't. I went into such a bad slump after reading this because the ending. Then I, again, wanted to read, something very light on my phone. I decided to read The Maddest Obsession by Danielle Lawrence. And you know what? That was my mistake, guys. I read The First Made Men, which was The Sweetest Oblivion. And I gave that 2 stars. I was like, that was horrific. You know what I should do? Read the second one. The second one was rated a lot higher. I saw a lot of reviews that were like, you know what? Hated the first one. Glad I gave the second one a chance. So I go, you know what? Let me give the second one a chance. No! Why would I do that? It didn't offend me by its presence, but it was just not for me. I ended up giving it 2 stars. I know that Gianna has some issues, okay? She's been through a lot in her life. It's like a mafia romance. And in her world, like, you don't get to choose who you marry. She was trying to, like, cope any way she could. She knew she was getting cheated on. The trope sounds good, okay? If you put this on paper, like, it sounds like something I would like. Christian Allister was so obsessed with Gianna that he had to go to therapy because he was so obsessed with her. Do you know what obsession means to him? He had a little crushy crush. My God. He just remembered things about her. He kept a hair tie. When I know, like, Haunting Adeline exists, which I haven't read, by the way, and I know I have to, but, like, when dark romance exists and you're gonna tell me that he's so obsessed with her, he's so obsessed that he feels he has a chronic illness, that he feels he has a mental disorder, and he needs therapy to cope with her presence in his life, life. I'm thinking the worst. This might be toxic. I don't think he was obsessed enough. Literally going to therapy over her, and she forgot his first name. I love women humbling men. The next book I read was also on my phone. It's called Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. I've been meaning to read it for a very long time because it is one of my controversial tropes in it. I personally don't mind this trope. It can be done so well, but I know a lot of people don't like it. So I'm gonna come out and say it. Don't get mad at me. I'm trying to give you a good gauge on whether you like this book or not. It's accidental pregnancy. That's not a surprise. It doesn't like happen at the end. It's literally the whole premise of this book. Win and Bo meet at a party and they get along because they both have a disability. And so they like make jokes about that. They're both dressed up as pirates because of like their disability. Like they're very jokey about it. She wants to have like a one-night stand. She finds out that she's pregnant. Bo was friends with her best friend's husband. Like they've all been friends for so long. And so she goes to her best friend's husband. She's like, I need his number. They decide to cohabitate during her pregnancy. In the interim, they're like, hey, we don't want to be a couple. We just want to be friends. So honestly, even though it starts off with a pregnancy, it honestly feels like friends to lovers because they really cohabitate for so long and they are so cute. Both of them are so nerdy in their own ways. I love this book so much. I think this is like one of the best examples of accidental pregnancy I've seen. Next book I read was Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I've been meaning to read this for so long. This is a very popular YA romance. It's about Liz, who has this very idealized version of high school romance in her head. Liz, tragically, when she was young, lost her mother, and her mother and her really bonded over rom-coms. Her childhood crush walks into her life. He moves back into town, and she thinks this is the opportunity to fulfill what my mom and I always talked about and to have a big romance now that prom is coming up. However, she keeps being really awkward around Michael, and she realizes that her neighbor, who is kind of her enemy and who has been teasing her whole life, has an in with Michael. So she goes to Wes and she asks him, can you please teach me how to get into Michael's good graces? And they end up actually fake dating. I really liked this book. I thought that this was such a cute, like fluffy read. Tried to live the day in the life of Liz Boebam. I'll link that video up above. I just love when a character has like this like subset like hobby. It's like a hyperfixation. I love that. And the fact that hers was like rom-coms, soundtracks, so good. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I actually ended up reading the novella as well, which was Better Than the Prom. I just loved reading Wes's point of view, especially since, you know, you find out that he was been pining after her for a very long time. Super short. It was just a quick little novella. I give it 4 stars. Then I read Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This one had book talk in a stir. I will say, I did not expect an Ali Hazelwood book to be so controversial on Book Talk. I actually ordered a special edition copy of it, which is on the way, and I ended up rating it 4.25 stars. So if you're someone who disliked it, listen, I get you, but I honestly ended up enjoying it. It was like crack to me. I finished it so quickly. Athletes in college. So one is a competitive swimmer, the other is a competitive diver, and they're both looking to go to the Olympics. Scarlett is kind of removed. She doesn't have a lot of friends. She makes a friend named Penn. Penn one day complains to her about how she's met the love of her life, but he is not good in bed. They are not compatible with each other. Scarlett really doesn't think anything of it until later on. Her friend confides in her that her boyfriend wants to dabble in BDSM. Penn is not about that. Scarlett actually shares that she is actually into that and that she can understand the difficulty because she had a past relationship where her partner also didn't feel that they wanted to entertain that. So Penn and Lucas break up. Penn is like, you know what? And she's drunk one night and she says, Lucas, why don't you hook up with Scarlett? She is also into what you're into. So she throws them to each other and they cannot stop interacting with each other until they decide to basically explore that side of them for the first time with compatible partners. I understand that that's not everyone's cup of tea. It is mine. There was a couple things that I didn't love about it. Number one, Penn. Freaking hated her. I don't don't know why Allie Hazelwood is so lenient on female friends in her books. I noticed this in her books a lot. If the main character is a female friend who really treats them poorly, she'll try to like reconcile it in some way. And I'm like, sometimes people aren't meant to be friends. Sometimes someone can do something really bad and you don't have to forgive them. And the way that Penn acted towards both Lucas and Scarlet in this book made me so viscerally angry. I've never been so angry at a character in my life. I hated her. No part of me wanted them to continue to be friends. The second thing that bothered me was the idea that there were so many time jumps in the book. Oh, Lucas was getting irritated with how far apart we've been from each other and how much time has passed. Like, girl, you didn't have to write that. This is your world. We're living in it. However, what I did like about the book, the smut was great. Additionally, I think that Lucas was such a good book boyfriend. Once he was single, he was so clear about what he felt about Scarlet. He was always there for her. The next book that I read was Iced Out by C.E. Ritchie. I read this on my phone. The first book in the Late in You series is a hockey romance. I always love a hockey romance, and the fact that this was like enemies to lovers was just so needed. I felt like I just needed something to like shut my brain off. Physically fighting each other, they were hating on each other, and that's what I want. I want it to be like violent. This is about Quinn and Oakley, and basically they met each other in high school as they were rivals, and they got into this huge fight, and they haven't gotten over it since. But in college, they end up actually being teammates again. They hate each other until one day they literally hook up at a frat party, and this is the funniest premise I've ever heard. They hook up, and the next day their losing streak turns around and they win. Quinn basically says like, hey, I think that our win is due to the fact that we hooked up, because the next week when they didn't hook up, they lost again. Let's keep hooking up because it's a good luck charm. Bro, I'm not gay. It's just he's my good luck charm. What the hell? It made for a very good situationship. I thought it was so funny. And then they end up actually getting really close to each other. Quinn doesn't have the greatest home life, and Oakley decides to bring him into the fold. They start really taking care of each other. I thought it was such a fun, easy read. Oh Lord. This is the epitome of that TikTok trend that's like, you guys aren't ready to talk about it. Everybody thinks this is a 5-star read, but to me it's disgusting. And that to me is Every Summer After. I have never rated a book 1 star in my life. This is 1 star. I know that everyone loves this book. I get it. I know it. That's why I read it. That's why I bought it. I just think I don't like her writing, or maybe I just don't get it. The other book that I read of hers, This Summer Will Be Different, I think I rated that 2 stars. We're not like meshing. We're on the same wavelength. I'm sorry, Carly. But this book has a trope in it that personally I can never get over. And if you have read Love and Other Words, it's very similar. But I gave Love and Other Words 4 stars, and I gave this 1 star. Even though they both have the same trope I hate, this to me was not redeemable. I knew it was coming. I knew it. I could see the crumbs. I could see the foreshadowing. But even so, when it happened, I was still disgusted. Her name is Persephone. They call her Percy. She grew up going to a cabin, and the boys next door, Sam and Charlie, were her best friends. She fell in love with Sam Florek when she was super young. They decided to get together. It's a book that goes between present and past scenes, so it's kind of set up like that, where in the present you know that her and Sam haven't had contact for about 12 years, and you don't know why. She has like severe anxiety. She's still in love with him. She's so distraught over their relationship. She gets a call from his older brother Charlie that their mother had passed away, and they were wondering if she would like to come back to town to go to the funeral because they were such a close family. She decides to go back to their hometown. She sees Sam and Charlie again for the first time in 12 years. It's a very short book, and I think that's the only reason I got through it. Not for me. I'm so sorry. Like, I really wanted to like this, but just like I could not get over it. If you want something with a similar vibe, read Love in Other Words. Then, thankfully, we had a quick turnaround and we read an actually really good book, Fairest of All by Serena Valentino. This is book 1 in the Villain series. They're really, really short. Each of the books in the series are about a different Disney villain. So obviously, if you recognize, this is the Evil Queen. This is the story of Snow White told from her perspective. Never considered the idea that maybe the Evil Queen wasn't always evil. I know that sounds like naive, but like I just never considered that she wasn't born that way. And I loved that this story truly showed how remarkable of a person she was, how sweet she was, and how her hopes and aspirations were so pure at first, and how she was slowly corrupted by magic. I never expected to feel so much for the Evil Queen and for her tragedy. I just think this was a great book that showcases generational trauma in the setting of a fairy tale. So guys, those were all the books I read in January and February. Very good start to my year. I know there were some lows in there, but generally very, very good books. And I feel like I did a good mix of like, you know, fantasy, but also romance. And if you guys have read any of these books, please let me know what you thought of them. Or if you have any recommendations for me, please let me know. I am so happy that I had such a good start to my year. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Look at her style from the street. Look at her style from the ghetto. This I will never make it big. Me, I tell them say